Hi, I'm Eric Meyer. I'm the Dean of the School of Information at the University of Texas at Austin. I'm really pleased to be sitting here today with Ambassador Sichan Siv, who's recently given a significant gift to the School of Information, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. Ambassador Siv, you have a fascinating story. You started out in harrowing circumstances in the killing fields of Cambodia. You've achieved success, recognition, love, friendships all over the world in your many roles, including serving as ambassador to the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Your life and story are absolutely inspirational. I really encourage viewers to read your book, Golden Bones, to watch some of the really engaging talks you've given on YouTube. There's some really good talks on YouTube, and I encourage everyone to go watch those. But today I really want to talk to you a little bit about your philanthropy and the giving that you've done in various guises, and particularly your support of the University of Texas School of Information, and about the role your beloved late wife, Martha Pattillo Siv, had in your decisions about how to direct your efforts. Martha was a proud UT alum. She had her undergraduate honors degree in French and her master's degree from our school in Library Information and Science. So you've been a generous supporter of the iSchool over the years. What motivated you to establish this new gift, which is the Martha Pattillo Siv and Ambassador Sichan Siv Endowed Scholarship?
Well, thank you very much, Dean, for having me here. It's a pleasure and a privilege. I consider my life as a blessed life for a simple reason that I have met Martha in 1977, on September 15, 1977. In New York, since we met, she opened new horizons for me. And there are only three people who are most influential in my life. My mother, who gave me life, Martha, who gives me love and showed me how to look far, to see, listen to hear, learn to live, love to give, and live to serve. And then George H.W. Bush, who taught me about leadership. But of all these three people, I spent my life more with Martha since we met in 1977 until she lifted off to be in heaven with the Lord in 2016. So those years were really probably the best years of my life. And Martha spoke very highly of the iSchool, known at the time as the Graduate School of Library and Information Science. And she was very proud of her education here, just I am proud of my own education at Columbia. And whenever I travel around the world, when I see something that has anything to do with library and information science, I would stop and take a picture. I remember I was in Dar es Salaam some years ago, and I drove through the campus of University of Tanzania, and there was East African School of Library and Information Science. I stopped and then I had a picture taken. She was so pleased. But the simple reason is that because Martha was the rock, the shield, and the fortress for me, and she was everything to me and simply the best. Everything to me and simply the best. Those are the terms I used when I introduced her in the U.S. Senate when I went through my confirmation hearing. So that's the simple reason that I really wanted to immortalize her name with the institution that she loves so much.
Absolutely. And I mentioned that you've had a long period of support for the school, and we're sitting today in the Martha Lee Pattillo Siv Doctoral Student Lounge. And this is really a special place to the iSchool. Our doctoral students use it all the time. It's a lovely space. It's very restful and relaxing for people to study and to get engaged with learning new knowledge. What did dedicating this space to Martha mean to you?
Enormously meaningful to me, because each time I am in Austin, I usually try to get here and just sit for a few moments by myself to reflect on the blessing of life I have had with her and thereafter. But the other thinking is that students need a place to really reflect or meditate on what they are doing, what they are studying, what is ahead of them. And I cannot think of any place better than this one. I love the color, and I congratulate the school, especially Cassie Daniel, who was before Shannon, who came up with this color, because in our former home we have a room dedicated to what we call the Texas Suite, which is a guest room, and Martha chose this color. And without knowing, when I came to see the lounge, I said, my goodness, how did you know that this is our favorite color? So it's a good place to reflect, to re-energize, to rejuvenate for the students, to think about their plans for the future, but more importantly to what they are doing at the present.
So, as we've said, Martha graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. What memories can you share with the people who are watching about some of her time as a student, or how her studies shaped what she went on to do with her life?
Well, she considered this as probably one of the best investments she has made in her life, and I dare to say that I feel the same way about what I did in Columbia at the School of International Affairs. That is probably the most formative years in her life, in addition to the Pampa High School, where she was valedictorian. And she has good memories of what she had here. And I can go on forever to talk about, but she is a big Longhorn fan. You know, she got this shirt for me, that shirt for me, and I've been a flag carrier of UT in a sense whenever I travel around the world, and she loves it when she saw me wearing Longhorn logos anywhere. And so the impression or the impact that she had received from UT also was transferred to me, and I continue to carry on.
Did she ever talk to you about how she came to the field of information? What were some of her interests before that led her to getting a master's degree?
You know, Martha was a voracious reader. She was, when she was growing up in Pampa, she was reading like 100 books. 100 books every summer. Can you believe it? It's just incredible. And I mean, her dream was to live in France, and that's what she wanted to do, and she did. So she was the only child of two teachers, so they had a lot of vacation. In the summer, she would travel all over. I think by the time she was in 4th grade, she has been to 40 states. 40 states in the United States. I think many of the adults here may not make it that far, even their entire life. So she has that strong interest of learning and learning and learning. I myself, on the other side of the world, I spent a lot of time in the library because I grew up in the former French colony, and the only connection to the outside world was books, books, and books. And I spent a lot, while Martha was here, I was spending time in the National Library. I learned everything about Europe, I learned everything about America through books and magazines that I read. So in a sense, we had sort of a previous connection spiritually through the universe, here in America for Martha, and there in Cambodia for me. So perhaps because of that, she considered that the graduate school of library and information science was the field that she chose.
So the scholarship that you've so generously endowed is going to support students in perpetuity, particularly our new undergraduate students in informatics, which will go on to influence the world in a lot of different ways. So your name and Martha's name are going to live on in many ways, but this particular scholarship at the University of Texas will let undergraduates achieve their dreams and ambitions much the way you have. So what are some of the impacts that you hope future Pattillo Siv scholars will have on the world when they have gotten their educations and move out to the kinds of things they'll do?
The one thing I learned from Martha was, of course, blessed are those who love, for love is caring and sharing. They who care share, and those who share love, for pure love wait for nothing. It gives and doesn't ask. That's the way Martha saw the world, and that's the way I see the world too. So I hope that those recipients of the scholarship would continue to serve the world meaning outside their home, like Texas, the United States, Mexico, and everywhere else outside the United States, to help the community, society, and humanity moving on with their life, because we do not know how difficult or how challenging life is until we leave our borders. And even here in the United States, there are problems with poverty, with lack of education, and so on and so forth. So that is my hope, that small symbolic amount of scholarship could enhance the view and the opinions of the recipient to go into service, service to God and service to country, meaning the whole world, and make impact on those people everywhere that they touch, a life that they touch. And that's something that Martha would enjoy very much, because that was her passion, you know, to help women, women of poor countries, abused women, handicapped women, those who have been battered and facing a lot of challenges in their life, to create a livelihood for themselves. And she did that until the end of her life. And the reason she left the World Bank, 2006, because she wanted to focus on her passion. And I think her legacy will live on with these young people to help, to support, and to encourage those people who are facing difficulties in life.
Absolutely excellent. So we're going to be announcing this on a date that's very special to you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that date and why it's special?
Well, September 15, 1977, that's when we met in New York. I just moved to New York from Connecticut, and Martha just moved to New York from Bangkok. And we were introduced by a friend, and she invited me to have a tea on September 15, 1977. And that's what we say, the rest of the story that would follow. So that was a very important date, and I thank you very much for agreeing to that date to make this special announcement public.
Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about your vision and philosophy of education, but can you talk a little bit more about the shared views of education that you and Martha had, and how you think that, where you think education's going in the future?
Well, first, on my own side, my father died when I was very young, and my mother worked very hard because she knew education was important. She worked very hard. At one point, she had to sell lotus leaves, which were used in poor countries like Cambodia to wrap produce that people bought in the markets every morning. We didn't have any refrigerator, so people would go to the market to buy fresh produce, which was very good. You got fresh produce every morning. Those produce were wrapped in the lotus leaf. And she sent me to the best school in the kingdom. And from then on, she told me to never give up hope, no matter what happened. So that's a wisdom that she instilled in me since I was very young. And hope kept me alive in some of the most difficult circumstances. Hope brought me all the way to the United States and to Martha, to the White House, and to Texas. That's on my side. On Martha's side, as I mentioned a moment ago, she was the only child of two teachers. So, and she was, educated every day. And she took everything on her own to work very hard to become valedictorian on her high school. And I'm proud to say that I have been supporting valedictorians and salutatorians of Pampa High School also with a small scholarship. And because of that, she felt education and health are the two most important components of a successful life. And when she was working in the World Bank, that's an area that she was involved with education. She was like one of the top education officers at the World Bank from 1989, when I got a job at the White House until 2006, when we moved to San Antonio. So there you have me in Cambodia thinking that education was very important, and you had Martha, who was here in Texas, who already knew that education was important. So we met. There is no reason that thinking can be united very rapidly. And when she was at the World Bank, she worked in all over the world There are some 180 countries that are members of the World Bank, and she was specialized in education. Yeah.
And when you meet young people, is there any particular piece of advice you give them?
Well, I personally like to interact with young people for the reason that I hope that I can make an impact on their lives. And I challenge their thinking all the time, you know, even those valedictorians and salutatorians. Very simple question, you know who are on the dollar bills? Some people do not know who are on the dollar bills, much less who is on the $2 bills.
Yeah.
Yes, you see it every day, but you never pay attention. That gives me a lot of satisfaction to make their mind thinking. And the message that I usually leave with young people is this. And I saw that Shannon put one up there. Be well, be wise, be worthy, be flexible and able to adapt to difficult circumstances. Follow your passion. When you do well, don't forget to do good. When you do well, don't forget to do good. You don't have to wait until you are doing well to do good, but you when you are doing well, never forget to do good. That's what I learned from George H.W. Bush. When I got to the White House, he said any definition of a successful life must include serving others. And so I expand on that a little bit. So I tell you a funny story, and Martha and I were at Yale some years ago, and we spoke to the student there. I left that message. He said, first they said, what message do you want to leave with us? At that time I didn't have my own message. I said, never give up hope. And there was one who read my book. He said, that was your mother's message. And I said, okay. So I thought for a second, and I said, be well, be wise, be worthy, was what I just said. A week later, we were in El Paso. We were at your sister school, UTEP.
Mm-hmm.
I got a call from the Yale Record, which is the oldest college paper in the country. They said that we are writing an article on your visit, and we want to make sure we got the message correctly from you. Did you say be well, be wise, be wealthy? I said, no. Well, it's nothing wrong, you know, being wealthy, but I said, be well, be wise, be worthy. So they wrote that article, they put it on the front page of the Yale Record. I cut it out and sent it to my boss. My firm was George Bush, who was a Yalie. He was very happy. He said, good job, Sichan. So it's good to clarify, you know. It's nothing wrong to be wealthy, but I said be worthy. So here we go. Excellent. I saw that in the frame right there.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you for joining me here today to tell us a little bit about the background of your gifts and your life. So thank you, Ambassador Siv, for coming today. We're so pleased to be using this opportunity to announce the Martha Pattillo Siv and Ambassador Sichan Siv Endowed Scholarship. We're really looking forward to seeing the ways that it will transform the lives of our students and the ways that they'll transform the world going forward. So thank you very much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.